But anyways, enough jibber jabbering. It is on to the Elsenerds, Else News of the week.
How are we going to do this without the gibber or the jabber?
Um, I have no idea.
Like, can we get a jigger? Because that's what you use for salt in making margaritas in Margaritaville.
Yes, this is true. Um, but yeah, the first news story is that Warner Brothers has set up David Goyer and Justin Rhodes to be the writers for the Green Lantern Corps movie. Um, this is an interesting move. This is the Green Lantern movie, the Green Lantern Corps movie, where it's as they're building it or billing it, Lethal Weapon in space.
I wonder how many movies are, because it's like we've got to have two dudes and it's a buddy cop type theme. I wonder how many things are Lethal Weapon da da da. Like everything was Die Hard in this situation. Kevin Smith for a long time wanted to do Mallrats 2 called Die Hard in a Mall, because when they did Under Siege, it was supposed to be Die Hard on a boat. And or maybe it was Under Siege 2. The other Under Siege was Die Hard on a train. And that was the way that Hollywood, it's a simple shorthand that they do. So yeah, here's a movie. It's space cops, so it's Lethal Weapon in space. Ha ha, you get the picture, right? And it's like, well, I hope it's as fun as Lethal Weapon was.
Yeah, it's one that I could see making the most sense. And they are going. Goyer is going to be producing this under his Phantom 4 banner, along with Jeff Johns and John Berg from DC. From the DC side of things, doing the executive producings. And it's based on a comic book origin story. That's all the article says. I don't know exactly whose origin it is, but this will feature both
I thought
Hal
they said that
Jordan.
this wasn't an origin story. Maybe I misread that.
Unless it got miscopied over or miswrote over here. But it's based on one of the comic book origin stories from what the
Oh,
article.
based on a comic book origin story. Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
I kind of feel in this regard, and I know that Marvel said that they were going to stop doing origin stories, and then they started doing origin stories again. Um, I think when you've got something as big as the Green Lantern Corps, and with the Guardians and in space and everything, I think some of the misses in the first Green Lantern movie with Ryan Reynolds from a few years ago that pretty much killed his career for a while, it was because they tried to shove so many things into it, and the ring shows up, and then he gets flown off to space and has to train, and then he comes back to Earth and deals with some fucking space swamp monsters bullshit and a guy with a big head. And it was like, it was too much to kind of process to make an enjoyable story, and plus it just looked really dim and not really visually interesting.
Yeah.
And I kind of think that if you just jump into it, people will get it. People understand. Like Guardians of the Galaxy didn't do much as far as an origin story. It gets the team together, but we see Peter Quill as a kid, and then it jumps right to him years later as an adult in space and already established. And we're just like, we're here. We understand this now. So I don't relish the idea of it being an origin story, unless it's an origin of some other tertiary character that we don't know. And so like the two,
I could sort of see them doing it on, because again, it's to get it back in here with the article. It's gonna focus on two of the characters, Hal Jordan and John Stewart. So it's
and
not gonna. It's
I
yeah,
wish it was Guy Gardner and John Stewart, because that screams more Lethal Weapon to me, but maybe I'm trying to be too on the nose with it.
yeah,
Uh, but I also think that they're more interesting characters than Hal is.
yeah. I mean, it's so I know for a fact it's not gonna be Hal Jordan's origin, because his is pretty simple. Um, Eben Sur crash lands on Earth. Hal Jordan is right there, gets the ring, goes to Oa to train and all that stuff. I mean, that's basics of his origin. Um, with becoming a Green Lantern. But I mean,
I
I
hope it's
wonder.
the origin story of Nort.
Yeah. I wonder though if this could be like, do you think there could be something with um doing origin stories for characters that people might not know? Like, for example, Doctor Strange. A lot of people that I hang out with, probably before the movie, it was even announced was coming out, could say, "Oh yeah, I know who Doctor Strange is." And
Well, I mean, if you think back, a lot of people before Iron Man came out didn't really know who Iron Man was. It wasn't in the central zeitgeist. I mean, there were comic fans that knew, and even people who watched the cartoons as kids maybe had some idea, but he wasn't a name like Batman or Superman or Spider-Man. Even the X-Men had a lot of attention because it had a cartoon series in the 90s, but Iron Man was one of those things that was hard to put out there. Doctor Strange, same thing. I always saw Doctor Strange as a support character. I didn't see him as a guy who really necessarily needed his own book. He worked really well as the head of the Defenders. You know, when you mix him in with people like the Hulk and the Silver Surfer and whoever, I thought that was a cool way to go. With the Green Lantern Corps, I mean, if it's the origin of the Corps, I don't really know. Or maybe it's the origin of John Stewart, because we did get a movie at least with the origin of Hal, and maybe he's training John, which would be weird. It would be a nice little role reversal if Hal's like the older one and John's the younger one. But it seems like if they're going to go that route, it makes more sense to use Kyle to have it. I don't know. It really depends on how they want to bring it across to the screen. I know that Beat would probably, and I'm a little bit not great with it either, have some things to say about the fact that it's David Goyer. And Goyer seems to be involved in every goddamn thing. And in conversations at cons and stuff, he seems to show a general lack of respect for comic book readers and some of the comic source material. Although he's written really good comics before. And not everything he's done has been shit, but it's sort of gone over more to the shit side over the years. But I admire that when talking about this movie, that they, even if it's as basic as Lethal Weapon in space, they did define what this is, why it's its own story, why it stands apart from being one of the multitudes of Warner Brothers superhero movies at this point. Because right now we've had Man of Steel and we had Batman v Superman. Now you can say Batman v Superman was different than Man of Steel because it was two heroes fighting each other, being non-heroic, but whatever. Suicide Squad had an identity, but I haven't heard anything really pitched about the identities of Wonder Woman, of Aquaman, of The Flash, of Cyborg, who may or may not be getting a movie at this point. They kind of go back and forth on it sometimes. All of those things kind of are just, well, you're just going to go see it because of who these characters are. And it's weird because it seems like those other movies are coming up sooner on the docket than this one. But this one, it's, oh, we got a thought process here. It's like when you hear that the Spider-Man movie coming out is like the John Hughes movie for the Marvel Universe. You know, it's an identity. It identifies the story and it gives you a feeling of what you're going to get when you go in there. And they may take it to a different direction. They may surprise you. They do that. But at least it makes it feel individual. And so I appreciate that they're going with something that feels individual in this. We'll just have to see how well they do it. I don't recognize the other writer that's teaming up with Goyer, Justin Rhodes. None of the stuff that he's done, which goes back to a couple shorts in 2005, but it really seems like most of his writing stuff started in 2008 on up. I don't recognize it, but maybe he's something going to help bring something new to what Goyer is already doing in the DC Universe stuff.
Yeah, hopefully. I don't know. I'm really curious to see what this is. I always like to prefer to go into things optimistic, hope for the best and then get the worst, as opposed to, oh, it's gonna suck. Yeah, like,
or you think that it's going to suck, and you go in there and you're pleasantly surprised when it doesn't suck as bad as you thought it was going to.
yeah,
There's something to be said for either way. It's nice to have a film surprise you, but you can be walking into a movie and think it's going to be a great movie, and then still be surprised because it's an even better movie than you planned on, or it doesn't even have to be good necessarily, as just evoke something in you as the person who's watching it. Good subjective. Good is a
yeah,
hard thing to nail down, and certainly doesn't match for everybody. What I liked about the Avengers might not be what somebody else liked about the Avengers, and what I disliked about Batman v Superman may not be what someone else disliked about it, or maybe they don't dislike it at all. But if you can connect to the viewers in some ways, and the viewers that you're trying to reach with the story, that's what's important. I'm also kind of curious because we know that Ben Affleck has been in the news a lot lately. Like, they just keep drilling him about, where's your Batman movie? What's going on with your Batman movie? Hey, you can have a Batman movie? It's not like it's been pushed to shit back like Gambit, starring Channing Tatum, but every day there's a new article like, here Ben Affleck said something with Batman in it. Good luck figuring out if it means anything. And I just know that Batman is a movie that they want to happen. You know, it's important to them because it's a fucking Batman, first of all, and it's Ben Affleck both directing it and partially writing in it and starring in it. And so they think it's going to be a big deal. But if he doesn't play with the timeline of what the other movies are doing, and he doesn't like quite work in with however they want things to run, I wonder how that's going to affect things like this. We're planning movies out several years. What happens when Batman keeps getting pushed back, and then they try to move this forward, or they try to move this back, or they try to put something else on the docket? That's very interesting to me, and it gets complicated the bigger these movies try to get with how many things are interconnected.
yeah,
So that's something else to keep in mind, is when Green Lantern, the first one, the original, we'll say, came out, it didn't have anything else connected to it. So it completely stood on its own. It completely failed on its own. And it may have affected films that they were planning on doing going ahead. And all of a sudden, Man of Steel didn't have a Green Lantern movie to connect to. But it didn't really damage a huge docket of things that had already been announced at that point. Like what happened when, by the time Batman v Superman came out, they were like, and here's the next 10 years of movies from us. And we know that that's already gotten fucked up. So good luck, guys.
yeah. So the next bit of news that we have here is two stories that are tied together, and it is that American Horror Story has already been renewed for a total of 3 seasons now. It was already, I believe, before, and I don't watch American Horror Story, so I couldn't tell you which seasons are which, but before the show got renewed for season 7, then they're like, guess what, we'll also renew it for seasons 8 and 9 as well. And for those, because I only know really what this article told me about the show. I mean, I haven't really watched it. It's never really seemed like it was something that was, that would interest me. But I respect, companies who have the balls to be like, yeah, we're gonna bank on this for another 2 3 3-4 years into the future.
Worked great for anger management with Charlie Sheen, didn't it?
But see, that one was, it seemed like different because it's like, oh yeah, it had mild success, but I think they saw that it was mild enough to where it's like, let's milk this for money by we're going to do 100 episodes.
Yeah, and honestly, that was a smart thing that they did. Quality of the show aside, is that it made it so that it was automatically going to get syndication, and it has been, because that thing's fucking all the time it's on. And it was signed at a point in time where everybody was talking about Charlie Sheen. Like, for good or ill, everybody was paying attention to him. So yeah, why wouldn't we try to jump on this grenade and hopefully it blows up where we toss it, as opposed to right in our faces? But at the end of the day, is we're going to make enough money on it, and we got him pinned down to the contract to do all the things. So they busted him out quick, and then boom, done. This is a little different. We've been hearing stories about American Horror Story about several things that they wanted to do coming up. One of which is a crossover between their Murder House season, which was the very first season, and then the Coven season, which was a few seasons later. They reuse actors every season, not always the same. Some of them have moved on to other things. Some of them stuck around, but they reuse the actors, but they have them play different parts. So you'll see Sarah Polley in all the seasons, but not playing the same character. They did bring back her character from Murder House to the most recent season, I think. And so to have the crossover, this is something that Matt and I talked about on our horror theme show, is what happens when you have a character who has appeared in one season, possibly meeting the character they played in another season. I mean, it becomes like Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back, where you've got 3 versions of Ben Affleck in the film, which is absolutely fine, you know. But it's like, does it deny plausibility? Does it take you out of the story? I mean, American Horror Story is weird, anyways. It's from Ryan Murphy, who did Glee, did Nip Tuck. It does not really seem to care as much about things making sense. Scream Queens is one that's like every episode they're just like different personalities. That Glee was the same way. It's like they don't have to act like themselves this episode. It's just important that we tell the story in the way that we get to use these Britney Spears songs. But at least you know that they have been thinking about this. They've been plotting stories for these other seasons for a while. So yeah, if you got all this stuff set up and it continues to get the numbers, then why wouldn't you just go ahead and hit the next couple of seasons, especially if you can tie the actors down who are getting good recognition for their work here and for their work in other things. Sarah Polley was in with Cuba Gooding Jr. was in the OJ story that was also from Ryan Murphy Studios, the American Crime Story.
American Crime Story, The People versus OJ Simpson.
Yeah, I mean, and that got a lot of good recognition. It's maybe that should have had more attention for following seasons than this did, but it's still new, and this has proven itself for a while. So you got some crossover potential between the two series anyways, by stealing the actors from here to there and vice versa.
Yeah.
I get it. I think it's cool.
No, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, and it made sense with, you know, with the other times we've seen shows announce for years in advance that the show was going to be renewed. Like they did it with Big Bang Theory. I think they've done it with The Simpsons a couple times. And it, you know, it makes sense because it's like as you know, because with how it sounds like here, with season 6 of American Horror Story, there was found footage stuff involved with their season 7. It sounds like it's not going to be as secretive as season 6 was. And then one of the things I heard, but like you said, was the Murder House and Coven things like that coming together. And it's like, as long as they have ideas and they're willing, you know, and Ryan Murphy's willing to. The other one I heard is that there's one, I think like season 9 might be all written by one guy. Like,
yeah,
like he has an idea for something and she's like, all right, write it out and all that. But it's like, as long as they have ideas and or Fox and FX deems it's good enough, they'll keep renewing that show.
And the other part is when you renew for multiple seasons, you don't have to renegotiate the contracts for the actors for a little while. So as their price tags will continue to go up, and that's especially true of a show like The Big Bang Theory, where it's the #1 comedy on TV. It makes sense to like, well, let's nail them down for the next 3 seasons, because we're pretty sure we can keep our ratings up through those 3. And then they don't come at us and say, well, we've been making $1 million an episode, but let's talk about $2 million an episode.
Yeah.
Or suck it. Well, maybe we do a Baby Sheldon show. Maybe you're fucking stupid. Which I think they might be.
Yeah.
Although yeah, if it's a show starring Laurie Metcalf as his mom the whole time, then I can't say too much bad about that because she's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah. The other news story that's tied in with this, with the, you know, renewals, is Portlandia got renewed for an 8th season, and it will be the last season of Portlandia. Portlandia premiered 2 weeks ago, and it's still going strong. It's still one of my favorite shows out there. And excuse me, reading the article I got is not the one that we're linking here with from Variety, but with how it read during the was it the Television Critics Association Winter Press Tour in Pasadena. It sounded a lot like a WWE wrestling retirement thing. Because Carrie Brownstein had said in there, that she thinks nothing really ends anyway, and like we're gonna be done with this, but it sounded like, but if the fans chant really loud, we might come back for one more match.
Which they probably will. And
Yeah.
and I know that they were, before the season started, they were putting a lot of the scenes from it or certain cuts from it they were doing online before it was even available on TV. And it may just be a matter of, we know Fred Armisen is doing stuff. He was on Seth Meyers' show. He was the band leader for that. They both have projects, musically, acting wise, probably writing. Fred was doing the show with Bill Hader,
Documentary now.
Documentary now.
Yeah, that's still going. I think that got renewed for another season.
So creatively, you wanna go where your creativity is taking you, and it sounds like nobody's bored with it or anything. They still enjoy doing it, but it's nice to go out while you enjoy doing something, as opposed to, oh, I've been burnt out on this thing for 3 years. Yeah. I can't believe we're finally getting to pull the fucking plug.
Yeah, it does make sense, because if you go by what you said alone, all of them are doing something else. Carrie Brownstein not only has Sleater-Kinney, which they did say in the article that they're working on a live album, but she's also in Transparent. Jonathan Kressel, one of the co-creator and director of a lot of the episodes, he is working on. He's an executive producer of Man Seeking Woman on FXX, and I believe he's involved with a few other shows as well. And then we already mentioned Fred Armisen with Documentary Now, and it seems like he appears on, whenever they need, an actor, a great comedic actor. It's like, oh, hey, Fred will come in. Hello, and because he's usually playing someone foreign too, or something like that. And it's just, so I mean, they're all keeping themselves busy.
And I don't watch the show. I can't say how big of a part he plays in it, but Kyle MacLachlan is motherfucking Dale Cooper over on Twin Peaks this year.
Kyle MacLachlan is the mayor of Portland in there. And it is so freaking. He had bigger roles in previous seasons. Honestly, this is one of those, I recommend this a lot. You can't go wrong, because one, they're short seasons. They're only 10 half-hour episodes per season. But this is one I cannot recommend enough on Netflix.
I just want to point out Beatmaster saying Muad'Dib. My name is also a killing word, but it just mostly makes you poo. And so also with the big kind of production of what Portlandia is, it's hard to get those things lining all those people up at the same time to go and then kind of take over this town and do all the little areas and stuff that they do for it. And if you think about a show like Always Sunny has big spans of time in between seasons. And we've gotten used to it. We've been used to it since the beginning. It was never on like a regular schedule. It was just like, oh, hey, suddenly there's a new season of Always Sunny out of nowhere. And you get super excited about it. But the pressure is probably on for most other shows, and probably like this one, where everyone's coming up to you and saying, when are we going to see more Portlandia? You guys have been off the air for a couple months. It's just shorts. You should be able to get those out, right? You should get that done. And when you say, okay, we're stopping the show, then you get to have the breather, and you come back if and when you want to come back.
Yeah.
Which for sketch comedy like this, I think makes things more interesting and feel a little less stressful.
Yeah, and I mean this is one of the shows that I mean have had big names come in to do bit parts or to do recurring parts. Like Steve Buscemi has appeared in multiple episodes. Um Jim Gaffigan has been on multiple episodes. They had, when the show started, the assistant to the mayor was the actual mayor of Portland. Who, and just to make it sound like it couldn't be more Portland enough, he has, while he was the mayor, he also had side gigs as a club DJ. I mean, it's like you dive into some of the stuff about the show, and it's like this show is great. And it is one of those like where am I sad that it's going? Yes. Do I want more? Yes, but I want it on their time, because the other part to that is they had like this small time frame to film, and that was usually in the summer, where the weather is a little bit more controllable. I mean, that's why we only had one episode called Winter in Portlandia, and that's it. But it's so much fun, and yeah, they're all busy, so it's like, I mean, they all have other things that they're doing.
And good news to everybody is you get them for another season. So
Yeah.
rock on.
But yeah, well, that is it for the Else News, and we will be right back.